You are late, boy. Tomorrow you will be here at midday.
Who are you?
Your dancing master.
Hi, Anirban. I'm Jason Martinsen, and I will be doing the critique for this 11-second club piece. I've been a mentor, animation mentor, since 2005, and I've been in the industry since 2002. I was traditionally trained at Sheridan College, so I appreciate this 2D animation more than you can know. It's very rare and awesome to see this. I spent about 4 or 5 years at Naughty Dog. It's one of the top video game companies out there. And then I went to Blue Sky and worked on 4 movies with them. And after that I spent some time traveling and working at various studios around the world, Spain and Melbourne and London. And for the last roughly 3 or 4 years I've been here in Vancouver working at Sony Imageworks. Most recently I was a lead on Hole Transylvania 2, and the project I'm currently just finishing is Storks. And the new trailer just came out today, so check it out. If you have any questions about me, just check out my website. You can message me there, jmartinsen.com. Alright, so let's just get right into it. I just want to play it once, all the way through again.
You are late, boy. Tomorrow you will be here at midday.
Who are you?
Your dancing master.
Beautiful. So, like, I love the character design, and I love the color choices you've done, and that you know, you've gone the traditional route. Everything's really appealing looking. Your layout here is really nice as well on this first shot. But the character is super appealing, and the color scheme contrasted with the background stands out. All the warm colors you have on him versus the cool background. It's really nice. And I really like the design. This guy, this long white beard. And all your animation is really nice as well. There are some things that, if I had seen this in earlier stages, I think could have been improved upon. And it's something. Some of these things I'm going to mention is screen direction. It's a little bit confusing in terms of screen direction, and the way screen direction works is, let's say you have one character is a triangle and the other character is a square. That's just to make it easy here to this analogy. So there's a triangle guy and a square guy. So in any film, you have your format of your screen. So if your screen format is, let's make it in red, is this rectangle, right? You can have any number of combinations of shots. So you can have a shot where your triangle guy is standing and your square guy is standing, and they're looking at each other, right? You can have a shot where, let's just move one frame forward here. And I'll do it a few more times so I can have some examples. Okay. You can have a shot where your triangle guy is like far in the background, and your square guy's in the foreground, right? You're kind of cropping off the screen. And in such a shot, you know, your perspective, if you were to draw it, like the horizon line or whatever, right, would be like that or something. So I guess this guy could be taller. So there's a typical shot in a film, kind of like an over-the-shoulder shot looking at the triangle guy. You could do the reverse, obviously. Here's your horizon. You have your square guy back here. And the foreground. Filling up the screen, your triangle guy, right? You can have like distant shots from any type of angle, where as long as the square guy is on one side, this would be like a down shot, and the triangle guy's on the other. You know, you're kind of looking down at this grid here. I guess if we're going to draw the square properly, it would be a perspective. But the point is, like, no matter what you want to do in this situation is you want to establish screen side and screen axis. And that line of the screen axis is the triangle is on the left and the square is on the right. And that way, whenever you cut, right, you're not confused. The viewer knows what is going on. If you want to confuse the viewer, like in a chase sequence or an action sequence, then you would flip axes. So if you look at a lot of movies, you'll see this type of thing. And now you're flipping axes in your shots here, and it's like to establish your screen direction, I would go to one of your more complicated shots, which I would say is this shot here. So you have your reveal. So here's your kid, and the camera pans over, and at the end of this shot, the kid, let's make him the triangle, is on the left, and this guy is on the right. So if that's your setup, throughout all these shots, ideally, you'd have this kid on the left of the screen relative to this guy on the right. If that's the case, I think this first shot would have been better off. I mean, this shot could work either way because it's an establishing shot, but when you cut in, this shot I think would feel better if it's flopped. So if this shot was literally a mirror image of it, and the kid was walking out this direction, right? Which would be an easy thing to do in an editing program. So he's walking towards the left side of the screen rather than the right side of the screen. So if this shot was flopped, then you cut to this shot, and this shot would stay the same. You're establishing this kid who walked out from the right to the left. He does his magic, and then the camera pans over and reveals this guy on the right and the kid's on the left. Now you'd flop this shot as well. So when this guy comes up and points at the kid, he would be over here doing all his pointing, right? He's on the right side of the screen. Here's the midsection of the screen, and you're as a viewer, you feel like, oh, the triangle kid is over here somewhere. I just don't see him. He's like too far in the foreground. So it would be less confusing if this shot was flopped as well. So if you flop the first shot and this shot. This shot works pretty good. Maybe I would adjust the kid's position if you just moved him to the left a little bit more, so his head is more in the third. That's another thing you want to try to do on screen direction. Is if you divide the screen into thirds, you have these hot points where your eye tends to go. And if you can put your characters in those points, it's really nice, right? So if you put this character's head here, this shot would work better. But I wouldn't flop it necessarily because he looks kind of like he's looking to the right. So this is a great shot, just ideally not dead center. And then this shot, you would flop because you want the kid on the left and this guy on the right. So if you flop the first shot, the third shot, and the last shot, I think you'd get a sequence that makes a little more clear direction screen direction-wise. That's one tip I would make, and it's pretty easy fix if you wanted to do that on your own. But that's all I have for that. So animation-wise, I can't be very critical on this because it's really beautiful. I like this kind of wandering walk he has, looking about of this beautiful scenery. Feels really natural. And he comes to the stop. You might want to add a couple more frames at the end before you cut, because it looks like you're animating on 2s for the most part. Looks like you have you animated on 12 frames a second and put it out to 2s, which is traditional the way you do on 2D animation. But then at the end of the shot, there's like 7 frozen frames, and if you just got one more pose, or maybe cut like 3 or 4 frames earlier, you wouldn't get that feeling that the camera and the shot freezes. So there's a little bit of that feeling of the freezing at the end. And I love, all the subtle stuff you have in the grass in the foreground. It's beautiful. And the twinkling water. I'm not sure how you did that, but it looks awesome. And if you're going to add some more drawings in here, I'm not sure, or cut a few frames earlier, if you watch his motion, he's kind of settling back, right? He's coming back and then it freezes. But if it didn't freeze, if it kept settling back, when you cut to this shot, you wouldn't want to be frozen either. It's really nice to cut on movement. And if this shot was flopped, like I was suggesting, he would be settling back this direction, right? So his hands would be out sort of in front, and he'd be coming backwards relative to the screen direction this way. So then when you cut to this shot, you could continue that movement. So on your first frame of this shot, if his head was just maybe a touch further forward with his body, right? And then over, 4 or 6 frames, you just settle him back into this pose. Very subtle. You want your actual hip area to not be moving much, but the upper body to be settling back. So you just get that kind of lean back at the end. That way, there's movement over the cut, and it helps with the cut. It helps with the eye following the direction. The other thing that'd be nice is if this kid is framed, this screen, if this is flopped, this is the middle of the screen. This kid's going to be like right here, right? So your eye is going to be looking kind of in this spot on the screen, watching this kid, and as the camera cuts, look at where your eye is, right exactly where it needs to be for the next shot. Whereas right now, your eye is way over here, and as the camera cuts, your eye is here, and then has to quickly bounce over there, and you miss a beat of the shot. Usually it takes 4 to 8 frames for an eye to catch up to the shot. So by flipping that first shot, flopping it, sorry, you're going to get people to appreciate your animation longer and not be as confused. All this little magic forming of this star is great. I like how as he comes down, you're compressing his shoulders up, and you're building this really nice hand poses, really clear. You have your arms out in silhouette. It's very readable. I'm going to draw this in white so you can see better, I guess. So this is like really nice clear posing, and you're keeping the hands separate from the star, so you're getting really graphic reads. It's really understandable what's going on. His expression is really appealing. And then this transition over has a nice arc to it. You might want to push it a little more. So if you, I like that it's a soft thing and you're not doing a big antic back and shooting it forward, but it might be nice as you come forward from this arc to let this arm straighten and just to push this pose a bit more. You kind of get to your extreme about here. But if you let the pose build a little bit more, it might feel a little stronger. So you just, from that point, over the next 6 or 7 frames or whatever, you just let that come over. So here he is, right? And if you just bring it over a bit more, so you can just push it just that extra 10%, let it stretch out a few more frames before bringing it back, and that pose is just a little more graphic, a little more pushed, and will feel a little more grand and animated. You might want to try something fun on the breakdowns and your returns are nice. You're favoring out of this pose and then moving quick through your middle, which is great, your spacing, and then favoring into this pose. But because he's doing kind of this magic thing, it could be fun to do like a little more of a flourish on the way back. So maybe you would have this arm drop more and do like an S curve, right? Or as it came out, if it would come up and curve into this, you could get more of like a sort of flourish with that arm. And then maybe this arm as well. This arm kind of, in fact, I would say this arm, even more importantly, maybe this arm is fine the way it is because you don't want to over-exaggerate the breakdowns. But if this arm came out a little farther from where it is, and you got to this, and you came up to this is where you're starting the magic again. You could drop it. You could drop the hand more off screen, right? You could come down and drop it farther, maybe bring it around here more, and then back up to here. So you just get a bigger arc with this hand, so it's more of a flourish. As he's conjuring up his pose transition, you get like a, here comes the next one, right? I guess it's this arm, but it's one arm's back, and this arm just would scoop around more, and you just get a little bit more interesting transition type things. But what you have works great. Because he's doing magic, I was just spitballing ideas. So one thing here is that he reacts right at the exact same time as the sound, and usually in animation, any kind of character reaction or camera reaction would happen after the character is alerted. The camera feels great, but his reaction feels a little early. So the U is happening right at these frames, and he's already reacting. He's like he's ready for it. So if you delayed all this animation on him, like 2 to 4 frames, I think it would feel better.
You are late, boy.
Maybe even 6 frames. You would just get to this a little bit later, but I think that wouldn't be a problem. But all this reaction stuff is great. His little antic down, pops up, overshoots, looks around. On some of these smear frames, you could do a blink pose, so he's like, his eyes are closed as he's transitioning. A lot of times on quick head turns, it might make, the eye, you could even push the eye pop. So like, I'm just going to exaggerate, but if his eyes are open here, and then on these frames they're compressed, then you get these big opens again, right? You can feel that eye open as he comes across. And it looks like, I'm not sure what conversion method you used. You might have used 30 frames a second, but it looks like 1, 2, 3. This helps for 3 frames, and it should definitely not be more than 2. You can also experiment with playing stuff on 1s on the really fast movements. Boy. It might just be that it's not hold for 3, but it's the conversion method.
8, boy.
And I kind of like how he hides the magic, like he doesn't want him to see he's doing magic, his little magic star. But you could make a bigger thing of that. You could either delay it a few frames, because right now it's happening on the camera move, so if his hand was still open and there was a magic as the camera move finished, you could do like the close then, so you can see it, because as it's happening on the camera move, you kind of lose it. Or you could just make a bigger thing out of it, so he does like a little scoop, so he's like concealing it, right? Because I like that idea that he's like, I don't want anybody to see me doing magic, and then now he realizes it.
Late, boy.
Master, mentor. And the reveal is beautiful. It might be nice if he's got a little more of an accent on boy, like with the head or with the arms. Maybe his hands were clasped and they came up. You are late, boy. Or just the hands could be the same. You are late, boy. Like a lean in, some sort of thing. Right now you're not reading him as well as you could because he's very still. You just see the lip sync. Now remember, this shot would be ideal if it was flopped over here.
Tomorrow you will be...
So let's just look at it from this angle.
Tomorrow you will be...
I think it would feel nice if you start. I like how you start everything with the leg. It's cool, like you're leading the movement with the leg for quite a few frames, and then he stands up. But it might be nice if you did a slight adjust with the arms first. So he's got his arms in this unusual pose, like he was about to conjure something. So if he just kind of relaxed a bit or tensed a bit, just did some sort of anticipation in readiness to his move, it's just like a settle over a few frames before the leg goes. I think it would feel good. Right now, its upper body feels a bit frozen and locked off, like you're just trying to hold a pose until the movement started, and then you're easing out of it. And it feels a little bit stiff because of that. I'm not saying you need to change your pose completely, but just some slight adjust would be nice. Let me change this color. Let's do yellow for this guy. So if his pose is here, you know, you could just drop it ever so slightly. You know, something like that. As it drops, it kind of settles, and then his leg goes. And you end up with him pointing, obviously he'd be pointing the other direction at the kid. He looks like he's pointing at his feet, so I would probably end up having the point a little higher. I'm not sure if you're actually trying to point at the feet, or if you're trying at the kid, or if you're trying to point out into the world. If you're going to point out into the world, I might gesture it more open-armed, you know, where he's just kind of like, this is the, you know, this is the space we're in, but it looks kind of like he's directing towards the kid. And he comes forward and is leaning towards where the kid is, right? Assuming this is flopped. And if you're going to do that, I think on your breakdowns going up, it'd be nice if you could go the opposite side of the screen, in this case screen left. So on some of these breakdowns, you're kind of coming right at us on perspective. But if as he's getting up, let's say his leg drops here, if this knee, let's see how that worked better. Yeah. So in this case, if this knee dropped down, and by this time you could get a little bit of this angle, as he starts to stand up, his butt would swing out to the left. So on this breakdown here, you'd get him, his head and shoulders and everything would be in the same spot, but you'd be getting a clearer read on what's going on with his hips, right? So they'd be more screen left. And on this pose too, you could have his upper body be in the same spot, but his lower body would be down here. As he comes up, maybe this arm would have to come a little farther out. And that way you have somewhere to go now. So if this is where he is on this frame, maybe I'm exaggerating a bit. As you break down into these frames, probably drag that hand a little bit longer, you're getting his center of mass moving forward, right? And then, because of that, you could probably end up pushing this final pose a little bit more as well. So you go from this to, say, where is your final pose? You know, you can get a little more of an arch, get his hips forward more. Maybe his hand pointed up a little bit more, just a little bit of a stronger C curve throughout the body here. And the hips would be more forward. It just feels a little more grand, a little more magical in leadership. I'm not sure the direction of the point. I guess that's probably too high because the kid is shorter than him. But it's more about getting this nice C curve through the body. And right now your pose is a bit stiff, and your breakdowns are a bit too much at camera.
Tomorrow you will be here at midday.
And this anticipation you could probably go bigger with. I like that he goes down and his arm goes up. That's great. But maybe if you push the idea with the elbow coming higher, right? Boom. And then now you can flop it. The elbow goes down and leads the action. Right?
Be here at midday. We'll be here at midday.
I play this. Yeah. You get this kind of wave. The elbow reverses, and then the arm
midday.
comes down.
Tomorrow you will be here at midday.
And for your lip sync, it's pretty far away, so it's not that important, but you really want to read the M on midday. Be here at mid, so you want
Tomorrow you will be here at midday.
Before the explosion of day. So somewhere in here, his mouth should be closed. And then you want that, you know,
Midday.
I would say probably this pose, you'd want the closed M shape.
Day.
Yeah, right now it's confusing when it cuts from these two shots, but if this guy was flopped, if he was over here, this shot would make a lot more sense, especially if the kid's head is just shifted to the left.
Who are you?
To the right of the screen, to the screen direction. And I like that he releases it, or she, I'm not sure if it's a he or she, sorry. The lip sync here, the animation on the body is great. The lip sync, it could be a little tighter. Who are you? Who are you? You gotta morph those together so it's ooh-ah, ooh-ah. And right now, I'm not reading the first who. It's going kind of, it looks like she's saying, how. I feel how, and not who-ah, who-ow. So you need the who are you. So just holding a few more shapes like around here of a smaller ooh shape, kind of like you have here for a few frames longer.
Who are you?
And then you can pop to this big shape a little bit later.
You're dancing, master.
That who. And this at the end is great. All these great arcs. I like his head opposing the force. It's awesome. Really nice stuff. You know, again, you could probably push maybe the body arcs a little more, but the arm stuff is awesome. You know, this pose is, you could push what his body's doing a bit more. But it's pretty great stuff. Like maybe as he comes into his final pose, if his legs were over here more, it would unravel into this, and even the last pose you could get a little bit more of an arc to if you wanted. Although there's some, no, I would keep it how, I like how you have it nice and straight because it feels more in control. In fact, I would maybe even straighten the lower leg even more to make it feel more relaxed. It feels a little, there's a little tension on it. I like that he has his leg crossed, but letting that lower leg relax makes it even feel like kind of more in control maybe. And at the very end, you have everything rising up nicely, and then everything drops as one unit. So at this point, if he's going to come up, you're dancing master. You'd like as he drops, you're dancing master, to offset things, right? So if you watch my arms, and it would be in the head, like, and the feet is a little bit residually. It's up, his arms come up, his body drops, and then his arms drop. But right now, it's kind of connected, and you just want a little dancing master. Body up. Body down, body up, then arms up, body down, then arms down. And then at the end, you know, maybe just adding a little hovering on him. Amazing work. That's all I got for you. I'd love to see more stuff. Congratulations on winning the 11